I'm Kimberly Peck from Laurel Hill State Park, and I'm here talking to you about some creatures that we start to look for this time of year. They are actually quite active in the wintertime because they have such fluffy feathers that keep them warm. You've probably already guessed what we have with us, and these are owls. These are some of the most common owls in Pennsylvania, and they're quite unique. They belong to a family that we call raptors, related to the velociraptor dinosaur, if you know what that creature is like. And it's because they are birds of prey. Raptor and birds of prey kind of go hand in hand because they are both meat eaters. And all owls in Pennsylvania are meat eaters. Another thing that makes them a raptor and a bird of prey is their bill. Both of them have sharp, curved bills that you can see. It's very different from a robin or a cardinal that you might see at your bird feeder. That's so that they can pull apart their food if they have to. If they catch something large and need to pull it apart to eat it, their bill will help them do that. The biggest thing that makes them a raptor is their talons. Now, most birds have claws. They have something that they can perch with, they can hang on with, but talons are what raptors have. And they always, always, always catch their food with their feet. That's the relationship with the velociraptor. They're pretty cool creatures. Some call them wise, and I think that's because they sit at the top of the food chain. They have some amazing adaptations that we certainly don't have and most other animals don't have. One of the things you'll notice about them is how large their eyes are. They have a very small head, and without those feathers, their skull would be extremely small. So the eyes that they have don't move. Very different from ours. If you try this by looking right at me, look straight ahead and move your eyes from side to side. You can see the things around you, the people sitting next to you, the things beside you, without turning your head. Owls cannot do that. The size of their eyeballs is so big they're unable to move them, and they're shaped quite differently than ours. So they have to turn their head. Many people think that they can turn their head the entire way around, and that's almost true. The entire way around would be 360 degrees that it could spin. These owls can turn their head about 270 degrees. So that would be being able to turn your head this way and look over this shoulder, turn your head this way and look over this shoulder. We as humans are not able to do that. We only have 7 vertebrae in our neck, which keeps it kind of stiff. But the owls have 14. They have double the amount of vertebrae we have and are able to spin their heads. They do that so that they can look around them, make sure that there isn't anything coming to steal their food or something like that. But their vision is quite good, particularly for a bird. It's binocular vision, so both eyes are set in front of their heads, different from a chicken or a robin that you might see in your yard. Their eyes are on either side of their head. They have binocular vision, they see one thing at a time, and they see it very well. They also bring in a lot of light because we know owls are out at night. Most owls hunt at nighttime, and so they need to be able to bring in a lot of light to find their food. Another adaptation is their wings, something that people don't often know about. But when you get close to an owl's wings, on the very tip of their wing, it is toothed. So it's like a comb. It's not completely sheared off like most birds would have. So there are teeth sticking out. So if you try holding your hand completely flat and straight and hold it next to your ear, and then you can wave it. So all fingers together, hand flat like this, and put it next to your ear and wave hard. You can probably hear the wind coming off of your hand. There's a little bit of a breeze. If you open up those fingers, much like the toothed owl primary feather, do it again. And you'll notice that you don't hear it as well. You don't feel as much wind coming off of it. Now you might wonder why that is a unique thing for them. Remember that they're catching their food with their feet. They want to sneak up on them. They're catching live prey. They cannot hear them. They have what is called silent flight because they have those toothed wings. They have kind of a comb sticking out of the front. Really unique feature, and particularly unique to owls. Another thing that owls do that's unique and very different from humans is they produce pellets. So what this is that if at all possible, they will swallow their food whole. Obviously, this is when they catch something that is small enough that they can swallow. A small mole or vole, a small mouse, something like that would easily be able to be swallowed by them. And then they just wait. About 7 to 8 hours later, they spit out a pellet. Now, I know firsthand that it doesn't make a sound at all. It doesn't sound disgusting, it doesn't sound gaggy or gross, but really what you hear is the pellet hitting the ground. What the pellet ends up being is just the bones and the fur that is not nutritious for the owl. Just like we would take apart a chicken wing and just eat the meat and the skin that's nutritious for our bodies, but we would leave behind the bones. They do just the same thing, but they don't go through the trouble of pulling it all apart if they don't have to. That's because they don't want things to take their food. They're very efficient about getting that down, being protective, and moving on when they make a capture, which is pretty unique and really, again, makes them wise and at the top of the food chain. They're very smart. So let me introduce you to these two Pennsylvania owls. The largest owl that we have in Pennsylvania is called the great horned owl. He has these tufts on top of here. He does have ears just below. He hears very well. These are not his ears and they are not horns. They're truly just feathers. They're meant to make him look intimidating, and I think it works pretty well. So he just holds them up, kind of alerts things. And then this fella, one of the most attractive owls that we have, and certainly the most common owl we have in Pennsylvania, is called a barred owl. So that is B-A-R-R-E-D. Similar to the barn owl, but actually quite different as well. The reason they call it a barred owl is because the stripes that go across the front of him go horizontally, looking like bars. A lot of modeling on the front of birds goes in a vertical pattern. So it stands out a bit when he's there. So I'm going to play the sounds this time of year, particularly on a full moon night that we're expecting at the end of the month. You might hear these owls. You can see that they would blend in. They're very well camouflaged when they're sitting in a tree, even in the daytime. So at night, you're probably not going to see them, but they make amazing sounds that we might be able to recognize. So we'll start by making the sound of the great horned owl. This is the owl that most people would consider a hoot owl. He hoots, he makes that hooting sound. It's usually very deep, sometimes can give you the chills when you hear it if it startles you and you're not expecting it. The hoot owl, or the great horned owl. Another sound that you may have heard but may not have recognized is the sound of the barred owl. It's very common and very unique. Now, if you listen closely to this, they say that this bird says, "Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all?" Listen closely. You probably heard "Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all?" It's a great way to remember what this bird says. We do it with a lot of birds, but particularly fun with the barred owl. So if you have the chance, on a full moon night, it's great, or even a clear sky when you don't have a lot of wind and no precipitation. If it's cold, that's perfectly fine with them. You might hear them out making sounds. This is time where they're starting to nest and getting ready to lay eggs and have young. Very unique among bird species and a fun thing to do in the wintertime.